city, a little town where I'm from, where everybody's southern raised, just as good as they come. Backwoods and mossy oak and mud holes, and back then we only gave what the farm grow. Man, I miss some days how we played on them dirt roads, and out of towners came with respect, cause they know we all close. Yeah, southern pride, toting gun folks. Welcome to my city, I-75 South, just north of Live Oak.
I'm from a city called Austin, Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, spin backwoods, running ride, this is small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, title town, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey.
It's nothing like our dirt roads, you can bet that, son. I'm from a city, by any means, we gon' protect our guns. I hang with the rednecks and geeks. We get up in big trucks in the backwoods like Indians and TVs. This the home of the mighty, mighty Vikings. Wildcats, blazing, title town license. Winners, pretty girls with country grammar. When I say about Austin, Georgia, I ain't talking about Atlanta. This a different type of city, where the woods are pretty, but get gritty. You hear me? What you know about that 229? You can find us on the Florida, Georgia line, where I reside.
I'm from a city called Austin, Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, spin backwoods, running ride, this is small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, town, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey. Moonshine and whiskey.
Some folks really don't understand how important it is and never forget where you came from. You know, when I say Lowndes County, man, I mean Lowndes County.
I'm from a city called Austin, Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, spin backwoods, running ride, this is small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, downtown, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey.
Hey, what you know about that 229? What you know about the 229? So, welcome to Thursday nights, the Viking Nation Live. I am your host, Larry Godwin. Some people know me as LG, whatever you want to call me. Just make sure you call me for dinner. By the way, I have not been invited to dinner by you guys. I've been using that line forever. And no, I'm just kidding. Some of you have. But listen, we are what? 6 days removed from the Winnersville Classic. Before we go any farther, let's just be gracious and in defeat. And, I'll just say it. Congratulations to the Valdosta Wildcats. There, I said it. It's okay to say that because it was a hard-earned victory, and they got us that night. Hopefully we'll get them next time. But we got to tip their cap to them, our cap to them, and say congratulations, especially that defensive line. That defensive line was for real. But anyway, you know what? I was proud of our defensive line as well. I was proud of our entire defense. Absolutely. Entire defense. Before I get into the meat of the game, and we talk about some of the details, I want to make sure that I thank our sponsor, because this is a type of show that we can get so wrapped up into the details, talking about what happened, what could have happened, that kind of stuff. I want to make sure that I thank our important sponsors, Pepsi Bottling Company of Valdosta, Pepsi, Mountain Dew Rockstar, Mountain Dew Energy, Mountain Dew Spark, whatever your drink of choice, make sure it's a Pepsi. Thank you so much to Pepsi Bottling Company. Thank you so much to our buddy Tim Neesmith, drove all the way down from the Metro ATL to be at the Winnersville Classic. Not only that, but Timmy was trying to get that crowd up off their butts and onto their feet to cheer for our mighty Vikings. So, Timmy, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for sponsoring our show. He owns a company called A Shade of Perfection, offers custom shades and blinds. If you need to beautify your house by dressing up your windows and really making them practical and functional at the same time, give Timothy Smith a call. Shade of Perfection, 251-3479. We also want to thank these guys, the Certified Headache Medicine Specialist, the Migraine and Spine Clinic of Valdosta at 229-333-9838. So you got a headache? Give our buddies a call, Josh and Justin at this Migraine and Spine Clinic of Valdosta. Thanks, guys, for all that you do, all the support that you offer. We also want to thank White Oak Investment, Kyle Conger. You guys see the stock market as much as I do. All year, up and down, up and down, up and down. This guy is a steady hand at the wheel. White Oak Investment, Kyle Conger, 229-850-8848. We thank Matthew Godwin at Verizon Wireless on Perimeter Road. Guys, if you need the latest iPhone, the iPhone 14, iPhone 14 Pro, Androids, accessories, small business accounts, you still got to communicate, win or lose for your business, right? Give Matthew Godwin at Verizon Wireless on Perimeter Road a call. He can certainly help you out. We also want to thank Freedom with Steve Nichols. Steve Nichols is the man, especially when it comes to political talk. Some of you like it, some of you don't, but that's okay. Give Steve a shout, at least a try. Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. I've been subbing for him lately. I was a guest host this morning. I'll be guest hosting his show tomorrow. We had a pretty fun time going down memory lane today, talking about my childhood and your childhood and how that relates to freedom and all that stuff. It was a fun show. So if that's your cup of tea, give us a shot. Give us a try. Freedom with Steve Nichols, Monday through Friday at from 6 to 9 a.m. right here on your Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch dial. We also want to thank the fine folks at Commercial Banking Company. Guys, you always need a bank, right? You might as well bank with the hometown bank, and that's Commercial Banking Company in Valdosta, Hahira. They've got some friendly faces. You walk through the door, they know your name, and that's the kind of bankers that you want. Whether you need a personal checking account, savings account, CDs, IRAs, auto loans, mortgage loans, or business loans, give the folks at Commercial Banking Company a call. So what you know about that 229? The 229 was on showcase, full display this past Friday night. And man, oh man, was that fun. That was such a fun game. So let me get our super fans on the line. Is this Chris Bisher or Chris Belcher? I can't remember. It's been so long.
It's been a hot minute, but yes.
But Chris, in your defense, you're still the George Bridgman Band Booster president, and you've had a busy year this year.
Yes, we have, and it's we still got a couple weeks before it starts slowing down between Battle on the Border coming up, which we'll talk about that later, and then one more contest because we had to postpone our contest because of Ian coming through, and not sure what impact that was going to have on the contest, so we had to regroup and reschedule.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, our other super fan, Chase Garnto, and Chase, you are not at home tonight because you were on the road with our 9th grade team. They wrapped up their season. You got some good news for us.
Yeah, the 9th grade team finished their undefeated march through the season. They defeated Tiff County 24-18.
Way to go, boys.
That bunch was without their starting quarterback tonight and still put up 28 points. So that bunch can flat play. That bunch is going to be something special. Give it just another year or two, and when they get, by the time this bunch is juniors, this team here could easily win one, if not two state titles with the.
Wait. Did you say two? My ears just perked up.
Yeah, they got some tall receivers that can flat play. They got one receiver who plays slot and running back in Austin Everidge. Austin can flat fly, and that kid can catch in traffic. I seen him walk off and leave one of Tiff County's DBs I mean, the Tiff County DB was almost about to run him down, and Austin turned his head around just a little bit like that and saw him and was like, man, I got to catch another gear. And he was gone.
Absolutely.
I was highly impressed with his breakaway speed.
Absolutely.
Well, Chase, first, obviously, congratulations to our team on going undefeated. But I just want to make sure I heard that correctly. Tiff lost another game.
Yes. And
just when they thought their season couldn't get any worse. I realize this is not varsity, but just got to get that in there.
Here's the thing, Chris, is I'm glad you brought that up, because this is the same Tiff County team that won it all last year in middle school.
Okay.
And now that Lowndes has brought all their boys together in the 9th grade, you see how well that worked out.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a different animal when you hit the high school, that's for sure.
Well, that and Lowndes is kind of at a disadvantage too, and just because we got 3 middle schools.
Yeah.
And now, granted, they're starting to combine those middle schools to make better teams for competing outside of the county.
Absolutely.
But that puts some of these schools at a disadvantage when you got like a Pine Grove and a Hayhire that's combined going and playing against the Tiff County. That's everybody. So, but yeah, this team, Coach Steve Holly, Coach Lance Gerald, and those guys out there did a tremendous job with this bunch. The fan support was always there. I really can't say enough about our fans, man. I've never seen 9th grade travel with fans like that. Because I mean, they were always there. We went to Colquitt, we went to Coffee. They even traveled all the way to Bainbridge to watch this team.
Ooh,
so
man.
Yeah, they traveled in droves to watch this team.
Listen, Steve Holly just wins wherever he goes. He was a middle school coach for a while. He won at that level. He went off to be an assistant at Lambert, came back. Now he's not great head coach, and he's winning there as well. The dude is just a really good coach. Just very impressed with that guy.
He's built himself a really good coaching staff out there too around him, Larry. He really has.
Yep. Hey, before we go any farther, this is not football talk, but it's my show, and I get creative license with this, right? And so I want to think today is a very special day for someone, and I'm going to put a picture up on the screen. Y'all don't make fun of my hair, because this was like 30 years ago, right? Yeah. It is my wife's birthday today. So happy birthday, Ellen Godwin. I appreciate you. I love you. You are a fantastic wife and a mother. I couldn't ask for any better. So that's us 30 years ago, and that's us a couple years ago.
Happy birthday, Ellen. And
happy
Larry,
birthday.
Your hair is taller than hers.
Absolutely.
Wow. Listen, Chase is going to have his bob up even a little taller to compete with that.
So you ain't lying. I'm gonna have to get me some of them Island Boy doodads and stick in my hair to get up that tall.
Oh my gosh. I had a lot of gel in that hair. Hey, listen, big hair was acceptable back then, for guys and gals, right?
I saw a thing on TikTok the other day, and it said, if you were raised in the 80s, do you remember all of this?
Yeah.
And looking at all those things and the big hair and the outfits, it's like, wow, that seems like yesterday, but it wasn't.
Absolutely. Hey, I've got someone, you guys see him in the back. I don't think either one of you know him, but I've got a special guest tonight that's going to be joining us for the show tonight. He's going to be a special a guest super fan, if I can, if you will. And he's a huge Fitzgerald fan, a guy named Alexander Kane. And some of you might be scratching your head right now. It's like, well, why is a Fitzgerald fan on a Viking Nation show? Well, because he and his family recently moved to Lowndes County. They've enrolled their kids are going to go to Lowndes County schools, and they attended their first Winnersville Classic game this past Friday night. So we're going to welcome them to the community, welcome them to the One Nation Viking family. And I just thought it would be neat to have someone that's never been to one of our games, especially the game, moving to our community, attends that first special game to see what his perspective is. Because I'm sure it's a lot different than what he's used to at Fitzgerald. Even though it's a great storied program up there in Fitzgerald, it's got to be some difference.
Fitzgerald's got a good program.
Yeah. So anyway, let me go ahead and welcome Alexander Kane to the program. Hey, man, how are you?
Good. I thought that picture, I'm going to go right in on you. I thought that picture was Officer Poncherello from Eric Estrada.
Listen, man, this is your first time on the show, and I'm already putting you in the penalty box just for that comment, right?
Sincerity with somebody that's a little bit weakening. Like, I wish I had your current head of hair and the head of hair in that picture.
It's you can't tell it because of the camera, but if you get right up on it, if you're in person, there's noticeable gray that's coming out.
Well, that's a good thing about the movies is we have hair and makeup artists that make us look amazing. So.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So you are a filmmaker by trade and you are moving to the Lowndes community, man. So, hey, listen, welcome to the One Lowndes family.
Yeah. Thank you. Like I said, let a quick plug so that the nobody becomes somebody, at least some frame of reference, right?
Yeah.
So every Bruce Willis and Mel Gibson movie you've seen shot in South Georgia, all $72 million worth of them, I did as an actor and producer. And I hope to be building soon a 100+ acre movie studio in Valdosta. Locations already pretty much set. I just can't give any more details at that. A lot of exciting things coming. You know, hopefully to have hundreds of people moving here and making Valdosta the Atlanta of the South. With that said, my first passion is high school football.
Dadgummit, man. If you'd have told me, you should have gave me a heads up so I could have bought that land before you moved down here.
I'm loving the idea.
Well, what I want to do is, Valdosta's big, but still, I want to help create a lot more to do, a lot more excitement, adventure. And I want Matthew McConaughey and, Mel Gibson, Josh Jamel, and Sandra Bullock to be regular, to be seen at coffee shops around Valdosta. I want to add to the community, not take away. And with that said, wow, Winnersville, right? What was it, 12,000 people? Is that the number?
Well, our stadium doesn't quite hold that much with the band, with everybody there. It's probably 11 and some change.
Okay. So, I lived in Texas in oil for many years before I left and retired and became an actor 4 years ago. And I mean, listen, Georgia high school football is better on the field, but we're not going to act like we can compete with those $63 million multiplex stadiums they have out there. So 30,000 people and 40,000 people at a high school field out there is exciting. But to be honest, pound for pound, the ball that we play in South Georgia is exponentially better. And we also got Buford. As much as we hate them, we can pull for them when they leave the state to represent us. So, I mean, Winnersville, first of all, thank Brittany and you for winning the tickets and getting the tickets. But we got there and happened to sit right next to Kathy and Carl Parker.
Oh, cool.
What a random sequence of events. And the passion, you know what it reminded me of? Pre-COVID days. When pre-live stream days, when everyone showed up and actually cheered and engaged in the game.
Right.
So it was exciting to see Winnersville was everything I thought it would be. I actually am embarrassed because being 40 years old and have followed everything from Herbert Mingo in Clinch County when I was little through Robert Toomer at Worth and all these, I can't believe I've never made a Valdosta game. I have a good excuse. I mean, a Winnersville game. I have a good excuse. I've always been at the Fitzgerald game. But Winnersville was amazing. And I was blown away by the Bridgman, first off. I know that's a big deal for y'all. And I've never cared about halftime until last Friday night.
That's awesome right there. So listen, you've never met Chris, but Chris is the president of the Band Booster Club.
Very impressed.
Well, thank you. It's a lot of fun to be a part of.
I got to get them in a movie somehow, acknowledged.
There you go, Chris. You got a commitment right there.
That sounds good. Hey, and welcome to Valdosta and Lowndes County. Now, you being from Fitzgerald, so would that have made you a Hurricane fan, a Purple Hurricane?
Oh, I'm a Hurricane, and technically it's not Canes, so we are all.
Well, I know, and so that's my point. So you come down to Lowndes, you can support the Vikings. You can use an S now. That's acceptable. Yes. And be part of the Lowndes culture.
I'm going to be a bit of an odd bird because I'm going to be the person that will be the Lowndes guy that loves Lowndes. But unfortunately, I won't hate the Wildcats. And the reason why is Fitzgerald has a strong bond with Valdosta because of Wright Bazemore. Wright Bazemore played as a Purple Hurricane for 4 years.
Is that right? I never knew that.
Oh, Wright Bazemore's in Ripley's, believe it or not, because he scored 22 touchdowns in 2 games as a running back.
Wow, okay.
22 touchdowns in 2 games, back to back. Let that sink in. 11 touchdowns per game in 2 games.
Wow.
And he sat out the second half in both games.
Correct. He was very impressive. He went.
Oh, I don't.
He did. He actually won.
Did he really?
He scored all 7. He scored all 11 before halftime. The other game, he scored 11 during all 4 quarters. But he he left Fitzgerald. He lived on corner of Magnolia Street, and he moved to Valdosta, and the rest is history. But I think the overall community has 2 great programs you can be very proud of, and you're allowed to hate each other here. But I hope. Right, and I doubt that Valdosta talks bad about Lowndes when they're in Texas. So it's you brag on whoever's out of town, but in town you kill each other.
That's right. So, well, anyway, welcome to the community, man. So you got your first glimpse of Winnersville, and I think we did it up right, man. When I was so let me tell you, Alexander, Chris, let me tell you about my day. That because Alexander, I kind of talked to you earlier in that day, and we were trying to connect so I can get you those tickets that Brittany had won, and we just kept having to push it off because I started that morning at 8 o'clock trying to set up the live streaming and all the tech stuff and that kind of stuff, and oh my gosh, that was so much work, y'all. It was so much fun, but I was so exhausted when I finally got home about midnight that night. But it started at 8 o'clock that morning. I was on the phone with our tech support folks. And we finally set it up. We got the paywall in place, that kind of stuff. We finally published the link. And then I called Scott Willis because he was the color commentator, who's going to help me. And it's like, Scott, do you happen to have, or can you find 2 headsets with microphones built in? It's like, I've got everything but that. I said, I don't want us to have to stand there holding microphones all night. And he said, let me call my buddy Scott James at Small Town Broadcasting. And Scott had a couple of headsets with microphones that he let us use that night. So everybody pitched in to pull that thing off. Wow. And man, we had such good teamwork from the school system, the Technology Student Association, Scott James with the city, me and Scott Willis, the band, everybody pitched in and we pulled it off, and it was a great success.
Everything I saw at Lowndes, to be quite honest, was top notch. We got served food on the way in. We got served food on the way out by tailgaters. And to be honest, I have not followed both teams, but I think had Lowndes' quarterback situation been a little bit differently, that game probably goes differently. I felt like y'all were in it. That number 10 from Valdosta, that defensive line of Valdosta is serious.
Wait a minute. I want Chris. I don't know if you caught that, but Alexander said he was served food on the way in and on the way out from tailgaters. I've been part of this community for years, and I've never been offered food at a tailgate.
I had a gigantic plate of grilled chicken and sausage offered on the way in. We ate on the way out. Someone else stopped us, and they said, we got more food if you want. And, the guy was not that too depressed about losing. He said, listen, we beat them to death all the time, so it's fair they get one every now and then.
There you go.
And it was a slobber knocker of a game. It was old school football.
Absolutely.
And, when you look at that and you go, no points were scored in the second half. And hats off to Valdosta's defense. I mean, they're the real deal.
Didn't that look like a Georgia-Alabama game?
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you the first half, and I even told Larry this after the game. I said the first half, as far as Lowndes not being able to score in the red zone, kind of reminded me of Georgia-Missouri in the first half, where just missing a few things and we were kicking field goals instead of scoring touchdowns. But you're right. It's that old SEC slobber knocker type of game where – it's a good thing this game didn't have to be decided under the old plan of penetration, because I'm not sure where that would have settled out. If you'd have gone back rules 25 years ago and no points would have been scored, assuming that, who would have won on penetration? I don't know.
Well, if you look at Lowndes' defense, you really lost on a couple of big plays, right? And if you go back to Georgia versus Missouri or Auburn, any of the games where Georgia gave up points, it's been a couple of just busted assignments. The defense has been great. I think Lowndes was that way. Valdosta just made fewer mistakes. But how exciting. One of the best in all my years of high school football, one of the best stories, the most amazing throws came from y'all's quarterback right there at the end of the game with the double. How that receiver came down with that ball between two Valdosta Wildcats with a double tip falling in his hands. My wife's head almost exploded.
Well, it was almost like the prayer of Jordan Hare. We just needed him to get into the end zone.
And he looked. I don't know that kid, but if he's 100 pounds, 160 pounds, soaking wet rocks in his pockets, I'd be shocked. He's about
ninth grade quarterback named Tate Snellgrove.
Wow. Well, I'm going to tell you this. Tate Snellgrove's first drive looked like a freshman. But, boy, in the big moment, he almost pulled it off.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I'm going to show you guys were talking about a play here or there that may have changed the complexity of the game, especially a field goal here or there. But I'm going to show a play here on the screen that kind of exemplified. If you're a Lowndes fan, this was basically how the night went. Okay. So if this play stands and nothing else changed, and the last drive of the game could have been entirely different, because if this play that I'm about to show you stood, it would have been easily 13-10, and Lowndes may have been driving to kick a game-tying field goal instead of trying to score a touchdown at the end. So check out this play. This is this was a touchdown that was called back on, of all things, ineligible receiver downfield. Check this out.
They've had no offense in the first quarter.
So this is a big series right here. It's 2nd and goal from the Valdosta 13-yard line. There's a heavy rush. Marvis Parrish is flushed out of the pocket. He rolls to his right. He picks up a wide-open Kyrie Fuller, and he walks into the end zone for a Lowndes touchdown.
And there's a flag on the field. Yeah, you're going to have
a number 50
downfield again.
Down there on his own, just into the end zone by himself.
So that would have made the score 13-10, and then you never know what happens. It changes the complexity of the game. At the very least, if nothing else changed, Lowndes is driving, and we made it to the Cat 30-yard line. So you get another 5 yards, and you're well within our freshman kicker, Aiden Andrews, is his field goal range is about 45 right now. So he's getting better, but it's about 45. You get another 5 yards where you're well within his range. So, it's just one of those little things. The other big play, obviously, Valdosta scored 13 points all in the first quarter. And they basically, the killer was that one big run they popped for 80 yards for a touchdown to make it 13-3. And so the rest of the night, Lowndes defense held them scoreless for the next 3 quarters. So that game was, guys, we talked about this on the show last week. Let me go ahead and take this on the screen. We talked about this on the show last week. And Scott Willis and I, during the pregame of the live stream, we talked about it again, was on paper going into this game, these two teams were so evenly matched. And I think that's what we saw play out in the game.
I agree. It was a slobber knocker. It was an old school SEC game. It was a Clinch County versus Brooks County, kind of head to head. This is that game where 4th and 1, you don't necessarily just go for it. You have to really think it over.
Yeah, absolutely. And so someone rightly points out that Valdosta dropped a wide open touchdown pass in the end zone. Yeah. So that actually makes my point. These two teams were so evenly matched, right? I mean, if you're a Lowndes fan, it always stings to lose to Valdosta. It doesn't matter when it is or if they're part of the region or not. It does. If we're honest about it, it does sting a little bit. But if you're a Lowndes fan, guys, you got to feel good about how well our team played considering the youth on the team.
And a new first-year head coach, right? I mean,
that was hired in April.
Right. And, I mean, from what I saw, it was about as good. I mean, it's the best first game I could have expected because I wouldn't have really wanted to see a blowout on the first game. I think the community's better when both teams are great. Obviously, as a Lowndes person, you want to see them win. And, I mean, if every year Valdosta could finish second and Lowndes could win the state championship, I don't think anybody would complain over on the Lowndes side. It's good for everybody. But, man, like you said, that is truly an example of football being a game of inches right there. Because
Listen, man,
things go your way.
I got to tell you something up front. This is your first show and you don't know any better, but there's a quota on how many times we can compliment Valdosta on this show. We've already met that quota.
I'm pretty sure you're from Berrien County, so how long did it take you to learn the quota? I get the same grace period.
That's right. Speaking of Berrien, Berrien has a big rivalry game this Friday night, taking on Cook County up in Nashville.
Y'all are as good as you've been in a while, correct?
5-2. Win one more game, and Berrien will have its first winning season since 1995. One more game, one out of the last 3 games.
Well, Larry, I hate to tell you, I don't think it's going to happen Friday night.
Oh, you just need to hush. Chris, I don't normally do this to you, but you're going in the penalty box for that one.
Larry, let me give you some hope. Worth County sure thought their 5-0 mattered against Fitzgerald, didn't they?
Yep.
Did you see that score? Cook County's undefeated. They lost one, correct?
Yeah, to Valdosta, yes.
Cook, though, is just as unproven as Berrien in terms of you don't really know what Cook's going to be on Friday night. I don't even think Cook knows what Cook is. Are they coming to Berrien or going to Cook?
It's going to be in Nashville, yeah.
Oh, okay. So let's see if the big lit up bee can do it, can bring any extra mojo. I mean, listen, I'm pulling for Berrien to knock them off because I think Cook has a legitimate chance to challenge Fitzgerald, but I also thought Worth had a chance.
So we're going to tie this into the Lowndes community because this is the Viking Nation Live, and both teams will have Randy McPherson assistants on their staff.
Well, you can always tie in Tucker Pruitt. Yeah, so
that's right. Chris Berrien is running the Randy McPherson. I guess you can call it the Auburn spread, if you would. And I think Dan Dipper Davis is the offensive coordinator there, I believe.
Well, the minute Randy McPherson retired, everybody in Fitzgerald thought, well, Tucker's gone.
Yeah. Yep. So, and then the Cook County obviously has Byron Slack as the head coach. He was an assistant for Randy McPherson, and Jackson Dean was an assistant for Randy as well, moved up to North Georgia as an offense coordinator. Now he's working for Byron Slack as Cook's offensive coordinator. So there you go. Both teams are tied to the Randy McPherson coaching.
Well, in reality, isn't every successful coach in all of South Georgia a potential future Lowndes County head coach?
Well, sure.
Right.
I guess.
You hope you never have to replace Grage, but it's just the positive note here is South Georgia grows so many great head coaches in the smaller divisions, A, AA, AAA, Quad A, 5A, 6A. And Lowndes is the big, shiny, city on the hill. And so every small team with a great coach goes, oh, my Lord.
Well, this is Valhalla,
That's it. That's
Listen,
it.
Are you always so positive? Chris, I don't know what we're going to do with this.
Yeah.
Well, I think it goes back. He realized he can actually say S at the end of his team's name now.
Absolutely.
Listen, when your team breaks a 73-year curse, and then your other team breaks a 41 curse, and then your Braves suddenly come out of nowhere. Best sports year ever. And then I lived the life of my dreams. So what do I have to be negative about, to be honest?
Absolutely.
Well, that's
true. I would like to get Lowndes and Valdosta or Fitzgerald and Lowndes and Fitzgerald and Valdosta playing. I just don't know if it's ever going to happen. Tucker, I don't know if Tucker wants any of that or if it's vice versa. But, I'd like to see it, even in the scrimmages, season.
Listen, I just got a text from a friend of mine. She, I'm not going to reveal her identity, but she's not from this community. right? But she is engaged to someone from this community.
Mm.
So she said, she's from the Douglas area, and she said, "You're not my shiny city on a hill."
No, but they may be your head coach's shiny city.
She's a really good person. She's giving me a hard time.
Well, who is it? Who, you know, I did not follow the realignment this last couple of years when Valdosta and Lowndes went back into the same. Who is all in that region now? Coffee is still below them, right?
Yeah, so TIF dropped down.
Yeah.
You've got Valdosta, Lowndes, Colquitt, Richmond Hill, and Camden are the 5 teams in 7A.
Yep.
And Camden's not on those Jeff Herring years level anymore, right?
This is his second year back
to
at the helm. And I that's the one team that still scares me within the region, because if they get that wing T running, it's hard to defend. It scares me a little bit.
If you run it right, because if you don't practice, it's like the option. If you just have a linebacker that can't do his job, it don't take but one player not doing their job to lose to a wing T or an option T.
But I know Coach Anders, our defense coordinator, is well versed and prepared for that wing T. So I think we'll see even though we're traveling back to Camden this year because the way the realignment was done, I don't think you're going to have one of those last few seconds, Lowndes heroics wins the game. I think Lowndes wins the game from start to finish this year, because we're going to be better prepared to shut down that wing T. But still, it's, we're going to go over there. We're going to battle Camden and battle the Sand Gnats.
Yep.
So since you two guys are such Lowndes, I'm a newbie here, and you guys are the heavies. Do you want a Valdosta Lowndes state championship game, or would you like to see them just run out of the playoffs in the first round? Like, what's the level of hate versus the level of when you'd want to beat them?
Listen, if we can meet those guys again in the playoffs or the state championship and get another crack at them this year, I'm all for it. So I don't have a problem with it all.
What that matters, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about what would have to happen in order for that to occur. Okay. So right now, here's where the region standings are, guys. Valdosta is at the top. They have an overall record of 7-0, 1-0 in the region. Colquitt County is 6-0 overall. They did not play last week, so they don't have a region game yet. Camden is right behind them at 5-2 overall. They're 1-0 in the region. Then you got our Lowndes Vikings at 3-3 overall. It has been a long time since we've been 3-3, but this year we find ourselves at 3-3 overall, 0-1 in the region, and Richmond Hill is 3-4 overall and 0-1 in the region. Now, it sets up a huge game next Friday night between Valdosta and Colquitt County, because those are the two favorites now. I mean, logically that would make sense, right? And so they're playing for the top seed right now as it stands. Now, Lowndes could still win the outright region, but we need some help. We need Colquitt County to.
When is Valdosta and Colquitt play?
Not tomorrow, but next week.
We go to Colquitt next week.
You're right. When does Valdosta and
So
Colquitt
it must
play?
be the 28th.
Let me look it up real fast.
So
Because we
do
play
you
Richmond
need
Hill the 28th.
Obviously, you want to finish first or second in the region, obviously.
Yeah, because you want the big thing with coming in first or second is if you're first, you're guaranteed 2 home games in the region playoffs. I mean, in the playoffs, assuming you obviously win the first game. If you come in second, you're guaranteed at least 1 game.
You do.
Okay,
we're going
so
to
Colquitt
seed your Road Warriors, right? The whole playoffs.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Colquitt goes to Valdosta on the 28th. Okay, so on the 28th. So in order for Lowndes to win the region, we need to win out, and we need Colquitt to beat Valdosta to set up a 3-way tie between us three. And then you go down to the tiebreaker. And traditionally in the past, I don't know what the tiebreaker is this year because we had a new region. But in the past, it's been points allowed among region teams. Okay, so there's a tiebreaker in there, but we need Colquitt to beat Valdosta, and we need to beat Colquitt. And then at that point, you got to keep an eye on points allowed. So even if we beat Colquitt, we can't let them score. It can't be a high-scoring game. even losing to Valdosta, that was still a relatively low scoring game. We gave up 13 points there. So anyway, those are the things that could possibly happen. But in order for Valdosta and Lowndes to meet in the playoffs, then we have to be on opposite sides of the brackets, right? So if you have a scenario where either Lowndes or Valdosta is 2 and 3 interchangeably, then we're on the same side of the bracket. So if Valdosta is 1, then Lowndes would have to be 4 in order for us to meet in the state championship.
Right.
Okay, we could still meet in the playoffs if we're 2 and 3.
You'd need to be them if they, let's just say they take the region. In order to meet them in the playoff state championship, you'd have to be 3.
Okay, let me back up. 1 and 4 are on the same side of the bracket,
Correct.
And 2 and 3 on the other side of the bracket.
Right. So if you finish second, they finish first with a head-to-head, then you would meet them in the state championship.
Correct. Yeah, I misspoke there. Absolutely.
So it's really a 50-50 coin toss at this point.
So my point is there's a lot of football left to be played.
This is the lounge show, but I do, I don't get to come on specifically all the time. So I just want to ask about what is going on with Tifton. Just a quick opinion on should they remove that coach or give him more time to figure out the difference between Michigan and South Georgia? I vote get him out of there. And I'm not. Let me make this. I'm not a person that I'm taking out the heaviness of humans being a Christian, not wanting to see any man lose his job. I'm talking football.
Just pure football. Wins and losses. Yeah.
Yeah. Not his family. I don't want anybody to lose their job. But speaking arbitrarily and objectively on football, I just it's not working. If
I'm in the administration, to lure him down here, from what I've heard, okay, you had to give him an X number of years. People say 3, some say 4, some say 5, whatever. So he did inherit a bad program. I mean, that's just a fact, right? They were losing before. That's why he got the job. So fairness is very important to me. And I don't think 2 years is enough, even though they've performed terribly this year, right?
The stock, right? If they were a stock, they're going this.
So I think to be fair, you got to give them 1 more year to be fair.
I think 3 is fair for any coach. What makes it hard is when you see a new coach come into, but you see a lot of new coaches come into bad programs and go straight to the top. And then you start to make these comparisons like, well, why can't he do it? If that team did it. But you're right. For a guy to move, 1,500 miles or 1,000 miles. But I mean, my question is, I just wonder if there's being any adjustments made. I don't know. And
I'm of the opinion that Tifton will be looking for a new coach at the end of the season.
You think so?
I do.
You could. I mean, that's where the money's going. When I say that, I mean that's where public opinion is shifting towards. Okay, because I heard I've got some buddies up in Tift County, and they tell me some of the things that it sounds like players are not very happy. They're not bought into the program. The community is starting to give up on the program, and so when that kind of stuff happens, unless the coach is an incredible salesman and can ensure a quick turnaround in year 3, it's like, guys, I told you it's going to take 3 years. By you got to have some assurances, right? And people have got to believe you. I don't know anything about Noel Dean personally. I don't know what kind of salesman he is. In order to be a good head coach, especially in South Georgia at a big school, really it doesn't matter what size school. In South Georgia, you got to be a great football coach. You got to be a pretty good salesman, and you got to be a decent politician.
I was going to say that the part of the head coaching job is politician nowadays, isn't it?
Well, and I picked on Tifton to start the game because our JV, our 9th grade beat them today, went undefeated on the season. I picked on Tifton. The reality is this, and you were asking about Valdosta earlier. We want them to be successful. We need for them to be successful until they play us.
Correct.
That's what you need. It's no different than Georgia in the East. Yes. You need, now Tennessee scares me a little bit this year, but you need Tennessee to be successful. You need Florida to be successful, Kentucky. So that way when Georgia beats them, it means more.
Correct.
So we do need for them to be successful. We need South Georgia to be successful in general.
Yeah, I don't
But
cheer
I just don't
against.
see him sticking around.
I don't cheer against South Georgia teams except Irwin County. Other than that, I don't cheer against South Georgia teams. But that's just rivalry for you. You know, I can't get it out of my blood. I'm from the old school. I know this is a loaded question, and you're welcome to pass. But in Lowndes, McPherson, Gage, whoever, y'all aren't going to just be satisfied with 10, 12 wins a season. So how many years does a head coach typically get in Lowndes before he has to raise a trophy? 6, 7 years? Like, how long before Gage actually has to compete for one or hold one up to be considered a successful hire?
Man, that's a great question. I think again, fairness is important to me. So to be fair, I don't know, because I don't think we've ever had to answer that question. You know, McPherson came. I mean, Joe Wilson came in. You know, he set the standard. Milt Miller came in, did a great job. Randy McPherson came in, won a state championship within 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with his third year, I think he won a state championship, his first out of 3. Then DuBose came in, and now to be fair with Randy, he won his last one in 07, and he stayed all the way to Chris, 2019?
2019, it was after the state championship game in 2019. But I'm going to say this. I don't think we ever have to worry about that, because Lowndes is such a young team. We have somewhere between 10 and 11 sophomores that are taking the field at any given game. Lowndes is going to be hoisting a trophy within the next 2 years.
I don't have any doubt.
You think so?
I don't have
Absolutely.
any doubt. I think you're
Absolutely.
right. I like the backup quarterbacks. I like what you got going on. I like the feeder system. I like the school system. I like the type of classy professional program that they are. I want to ask it this way. In Zach Grage's mind, how long does he think he has? What's his timeline? I would say he thinks 4 years.
Well,
Max.
if you asked him, he would say the expectation is this year.
Correct. I
Yeah.
just wonder if I'm talking about the public perception, because it's a real thing. Like, for instance, some context. I think Robbie Pruitt got a pass in Fitzgerald because we had Buford in AA. You couldn't blame him. I mean, you're playing Buford in AA, and they're the same Buford they are now in 7A. Then he goes to Coffee, and he meets Buford again several times. So, you know, Tucker had the benefit of no Buford, no Greater Atlanta Christian, no Benedictine, no Pace. And so, but you're in 7A, so there's no excuses. It's the biggest, you know. I just think Vikings, y'all as a fan base, expect probably 3 to 5 years to always have you want to be in it every year, right? That's the Vikings way. We should be hunting it every year.
That's probably fair.
Well, and you talked about the word context, so let's put this in context. Grades comes on board in April. We have played. We got a young team. We have played a powerhouse out of Florida in American Heritage, which honestly I did not give them enough credit prior to that game. Colquitt will face them next year. Even though it may not be the exact same players, it'll be the same team. And Colquitt's going to be taken to the woodshed next year. But Lowndes hung around in that game. Our next loss was East Coweta. I never saw that coming. I think that was just a night that we didn't travel well. They picked us apart in our secondary, and there you have it. So, but let's look at the quality of team that Lowndes has fielded despite that.
Right.
And to do this in just a few months, we're just early October. We've just begun region play. I think we had a bye week last week before the Valdosta game. I don't think bye weeks help at all in this situation. You've got to get your playing time in when you got a young team. And then you fast forward. So we got Dunbar tomorrow night. Dunbar is undefeated. They've only played 3 games. They've got less than 45 kids on their team. I'm not sure what they're going to be like. But then next region game is next week's against Colquitt. I think the telltale sign will be how we travel to Colquitt and compete in that region game, because Colquitt is loaded. Nobody doubts that. So that's where I think we'll start to see exactly where we're at during this season.
But you're on also your third string quarterback, right?
That's debatable.
Okay.
You could say that he was second or third string, depending on how you looked at it and who you talked to.
And so, yeah, I know at Fitzgerald we respect the heck out of Zach Grage, because very few people beat Fitzgerald over a 5-year period consistently, and I think he was maybe 3-3 in 6 years, or 3-2 even. I mean, if it wasn't us winning the region, it was him. And he's a heck of a coach.
Yep.
And I was just curious, being new to the Viking country. I want to celebrate with y'all and understand what the expectation is.
Well, listen. Lowndes is hungry. Georgia fan. Listen, you knew who true Georgia fans were when you'd gone 41 years without winning a natty.
That's right.
Well,
but we were
Alan,
there. I was there in person and got to witness it in person. And you know what? I forgot all about the previous 41 years.
That's right.
Alexander, I will tell you this: when our former superintendent Wes Taylor, when he hired both Jamie DuBose and then he hired Zach Gregg, he told them both the same. He told them what the expectation was. Chris, you remember that?
Yep. We play 15 games at Lowndes.
We play 15 games at Lowndes.
Right. No, that's why I was so afraid that Tucker was going to come down here, because that guy is a winner, and he hates losing even more than he likes winning, as they say. And when he got hired, he said, my job, he was pretty brutal. He said, my job is to do what my daddy and every other coach couldn't do, and that's win the 15th game.
Yep. Hey, you were asking about the quarterback a while ago. I've got the play queued up of that,
yeah, let's see
that crazy play
please.
there late in the game. Check
That
this
would
out.
be great. You want to talk about exciting, this play here.
Formation, about 5-6 yards off the ball, calls for the snap. Oh, he throws.
Oh, it was caught.
Was it caught? Was it caught? Was it caught?
It was
oh, my
caught.
gosh. It was caught.
So 2 defenders for Valdosta to go up and just bat it. And I'm sorry. Holy cow.
That was Kevis Thomas on the reception.
Comes in and makes the catch.
And I believed right in that moment that y'all had the magic that was going to – I really did. I thought Lowndes is fixing to punch it in and win this game.
And so
Larry,
that's why –
refresh my memory.
Yeah.
Was the very next play the pass to Grant Lasky that was overthrown?
Yes.
And he was wide open. Can you imagine if that pass is caught, he walks into the end zone?
Now I'm going to go ahead now that you asked. Let me go ahead and cue it up. I'll just go ahead and play it from here.
I think
it was either this play or the next play.
Still out there.
Now check out Kevis Thomas at the top of the screen, guys. Check how open he is. Kevis is open right there underneath.
Oh, no.
That's okay.
Little miscommunication there.
Yeah, 7 was wide open.
So remember earlier when I said, if everything else plays out the same and that touchdown pass was called back, you saw how wide open Kevis was, and he is a 3-star athlete. I got to think that if he catches the ball one-on-one with a Valdosta receiver, he catches it probably on the 15-yard line. He gets at least to the 10. Now it's a chip shot field goal.
Right. But even here, you're in field goal range with y'all's kicking game, right?
Yeah. So guys, if you're a Lowndes fan, that game could have gone so many different ways. Just be proud of our kids. Defense played lights out for 3 quarters. Offense had spurts at times. Still got some things to figure out on that side of the ball. But I'm really pleased about how much progress, Chris, that this bunch has shown throughout the year, considering the adversity that we've faced almost week after week.
Yeah, it's quite impressive. And again, with such a young team, I keep going back to that. My area of concern that I want to challenge our team to improve upon is still our offensive line.
Absolutely.
Create those holes, provide a little bit more time for Marvis to get his feet set to make those passes. And I think that's going to be the difference for the remainder of the season. If we can get our offensive line making those blocks, I think it changes the dynamic of the game.
That's
so
right.
let me make sure I understand this right. In Lowndes County, the Vikings don't rebuild; they just reload. That's the thing, right?
That's the standard.
Well, I mean, at the start of the show, you heard that our 9th grade team just went undefeated on the season.
For the second straight year, the 9th grade team, I believe, last year. Candace Marie, correct me if I'm wrong. I think our 9th grade team last year was also undefeated.
One of your middle school teams is about to have a 7th grade female quarterback that can throw it 35 yards on a spiral named Emmy Roberts.
I hear you. I hear you.
Trains with Vernon Davis. She is a heck of a female quarterback. Hopes to be the first. We don't care if she's fourth string when she gets to high school. We just want her to throw one touchdown in 4 years in a 50-6-0 blowout. It wouldn't matter to us, but she can let it fly and she can sling it. And she looks like Jack Skellington from Nightmare Before Christmas. She's
That's
so
right.
long and lanky.
Hey, I want to, before we end the show, I want to apologize to our player, that quarterback that we talked about. During the broadcast, I was so excited, and Tate Snellgrove is the name of the quarterback, young ninth grade quarterback that came into the game. I on the broadcast, I went back and watched it, and I was mortified that I did this, but I called Tate by his dad's name, and I kept calling him Ty. Ty Snellgrove is in on the game. So Tate, I'm sorry, buddy. I just want to correct the record.
Well, I got talk about like distaste and all, like in the game and the atmosphere. I felt the tension between the Valdosta fans that were on the lounge side and the lounge fans, and I didn't get a real sense of how much it mattered until the game was over, and there were a few little nasty exchange. I saw some very classy people with some very terrible attitudes. But that's what sports does to all of us. Believe me, I don't want my preacher watching me watch Georgia on Saturday.
Hey, Alex, let me ask you this. So set this up. You're a movie maker.
Right.
Put yourself in this situation. How would this movie play out? You've already admitted you're a Georgia fan. To be at a Georgia-Auburn game in Jordan-Hare in 1994, I believe it was, and Auburn has gone ever how many games undefeated. They're number one team in the country. Georgia comes in as not having a stellar year. And your girlfriend at the time / fiance is not a sports fan. But you are sitting in the Auburn section with your Georgia gear on. The old Auburn Stadium had these opposing tigers that faced each other, and the louder the stadium got, the tiger tails illuminated up till they would touch at the top. The tiger tails almost touched the entire game. And your soon-to-be bride sits there and reads the bridges of Madison County.
Oh, my Lord. Well, let me tell you this.
No, that's funny.
Right?
That's a
She's
funny
your
story. Is
bride.
that a true story?
That is absolutely. And at the end of the book coincided with about the time the game ended. She looks up at me with a tear in her eye and goes, that was such a sweet book. And I'm getting pummeled by Auburn fans.
So you're still married to her today? Is that the case?
27 years.
So I am 13 years with my lovely wife. That probably even a big. I mean, you can't be a bigger sports fan than me, but she may be. She's a Steelers fan and an Irwin County Indian fan and a Georgia Bulldog diehard. She's even got a giant Keely Ringo tattoo on her forearm here. And when we went to Cleveland during the game, we were there at the game when what's his name? Myles Garrett hit Rudolph over the head with the helmet. We were sitting right there. And there are almost no Steelers fans there, and we're exiting. My wife is not a quiet one. She is this kind of fan. Yeah, well, y'all ain't won a Super Bowl. Well, I mean, she's mouthing and letting them have it all. We're walking from the stadium back to downtown. And, I mean, I got Browns fans wanting to fist fight us all. And she's like, I don't care. They suck anyway. They're terrible. And she is a diehard. And so sports is very intense at our house. And when we go to Georgia games, it's intense. Watching it's intense. We're Monday morning quarterbacks, armchair quarterbacks. Can I ask one question for you in the show?
Yeah, man.
Do we all agree that we can boil Georgia's struggles just down to Stetson suddenly missing wide open receivers, seemingly double clutching, Reach staring down his first read? I get more sense rewatching the games that it's just a misses here and there of wide open receivers than it is anything else, because you're not converting. You're not hitting the 40-yard touchdowns that are wide open. And that's about a 20-point swing a game, which is a blowout to a close game.
Well, let's add this. And Ladd McConkey started missing passes that he would not have missed. And hopefully after his performance this past Saturday, he has gotten his mojo and his confidence back. But you're right, Stet, overthrew
Just a
Ladd.
little
Once
off.
Ladd is finally having a good game, overthrows Ladd. But I think I'll be at the game on Saturday. I think Georgia opens up the air raid against Vandy, and we got our running game going last weekend. I think this weekend our passing attack gets back in place. But we also got to get Arian Smith back. We've got to get A.D. Mitchell back. But nonetheless, I think you start seeing a different Georgia offense.
Well, Branson
passing
Robinson really looked a lot like Nick Chubb. That's a fact.
Well, they've been calling him
He
Baby
sure
Chubb.
did.
And
He sure
I can
did.
say without a doubt, I'm going to give a prediction, and I'm going to come back on just for 13 seconds and grin, and then you can let me go off in a couple of weeks, like 3 weeks. Tennessee's going to not only beat Alabama, but destroy Alabama. It's going to be very strange to see on Saturday.
Ooh,
That's
man.
I believe they're going to almost run them out of the building. I look for uncanny turnovers that need 100,000 people. I just think Tennessee I just think they're hitting on all cylinders. But I think the same thing will happen when they come to Georgia. Georgia will actually blow them off the field. I think because they can't do it twice. And I'm hoping that it's Bama that gets it and not us.
All right, guys.
It's going to be interesting to see. And, Tennessee, I don't know. I hear they already sold out of French's mustard within the Knoxville area. And all yellow golf balls are already sold out as well. But I don't know that they can sing Rocky Top that many
Larry,
times
give me
in
a
that
point
period of time.
prediction real quick before we go. I say Tennessee by 14, maybe 17.
I have two scores for you, depending on if Bryce Young is back for Alabama or not. If Bryce Young plays, Alabama wins by 14. If Milroe plays, Alabama loses by 10.
Okay. And what about you, Chris?
Gosh, I think Alabama, again, if Bryce Young is playing, Alabama wins, but I think it will be closer than 14. Alabama's had too many scares. They've had too many struggle wins.
Chris, I'm not laughing at what you just said. I'm laughing because our guest for the night, his wife is making comments like, "Ooh, that Alexander is such a hottie. Is he married?"
He's literally sitting right here on the other side.
She's sitting right there in front of him.
She's like an inch over there. There she is.
Oh, there she is.
She was
Hello.
over there 2 seconds ago. So
Listen, we're losing all kinds of.
Oh, I see a shirt.
There you
I
go.
go Dogs.
I hear you. Hey, last thing I'll say, guys, is Lowndes does have homecoming this Friday night against Dunbar. Dunbar can't be taken lightly. They haven't played in a couple of weeks, probably due to the hurricane down there because they're right outside of Fort Myer, that area. But they are currently 3-0, coming in to hoping, I should say, to upset Lowndes. This team can't be taken lightly. It is homecoming, and I expect a big Viking win, especially after losing to Valdosta. But these guys can't be taken lightly. And since they are from the Fort Myer area, they did suffer from some damage due to the hurricane. And our school system is having a donation campaign, a drive to help that community out. So, guys, if you're watching tonight, be generous this Friday night. I think, Chris, we're going to have some donation buckets out for that game.
Yeah, that is correct. And in addition, Alexander, you mentioned earlier about the Bridgman, the classes of 78, 79, 80, 81 Bridgman, which the Bridgman were originally, the Bridgman as we know them today were formed in 1978 by Billy Martin. They are having a class reunion here at homecoming. They're going to take the field with the Bridgman pregame in addition. But yeah, I expect this to be, I think Lowndes is going to take it to them. I think the boys are ready.
Give them all the charity in the buckets. Give them nothing on the field.
That's right. That's
right.
exactly
right. So, guys, that's going to wrap it up for our show tonight. Thank you so much to Alexander Kane. Thank you, Chris Bisher. Chase Garnto was on for a little bit. I'm Larry Godwin. You guys have been watching the Viking Nation Live. We'll see you guys at the stadium tomorrow night. Until then, go Vikings.
Go Vikings.
Go Vikings.